Hello, this video is for Mr. V's Blue Reading Group. We're working with the book All About Fireflies today. The first thing I want you to do is go grab this book and flip through the pictures. Don't need to read any words yet, just look through the pictures. Think about what we'll be learning on each page. Once you've done that, you can unpause the video. Okay, before we get started, I want to go over a couple words. The first word is larva. Larva is the stage of an insect life when it's young, right after coming out of the egg. When we grew caterpillars in our classroom, the caterpillars were the larva stage of that animal. Okay, it's after they've come out of the egg, but it's before they've become adults. The adults were when they were butterflies. So again, the larva stage is when they are young, right after coming out of the egg. The other word we want to talk about here is pupa. This is the stage of their life between the larva stage and adulthood stage. And in this stage, they usually stop moving around. They're inactive. That means they're not active. And this is when their bodies change. So in the caterpillar, as it changed into a butterfly, the pupa stage was when it was in the chrysalis. And many other insects do this that have the pupa stage. They make a hard shell. They stop moving around, and during this time is when their body parts are changing. So the caterpillar in the chrysalis and the pupa stage was changing into a butterfly. Its wings were developing. Okay, so those are the two stages, two words I wanted to go over that we'll see in this book, and it'll be important to understand those as we learn about fireflies. Okay, so before we get started reading, I want to remind you about our strategies we use when we're stuck on words. Of course, we can put sounds together. We can look for chunks we know inside of a word. We can flip vowels, but the most important one, as you know, is to always ask ourselves, does it make sense? Okay, especially at the end of a sentence. So if I was reading this page and I came here, I read a firefly is a beetle. It is a speech beetle. If I'm asking myself at the end of each sentence, just very quickly, if I'm asking myself, does it make sense? I should notice that that one did not make sense. It is a speech beetle. That does not make sense. And you know what to do when you're reading something and you notice it doesn't make sense. You have to go back, try it again. It is a speaking beetle. I don't think it's that. It is a special beetle. It is a special beetle. Then ask yourself, does it look right? Yeah. Does it sound right? Sure. Okay. You might not always be able to figure out that tricky word. You may need to ask someone for help, okay, after you've tried a few times. But what we cannot do is make mistakes and just keep going without trying to fix them, okay? It's very important that we notice when it doesn't make sense and do our very best to try to fix it. So we're going to read page 2 together, and then you'll continue on reading the rest of the book by yourself. What kind of animal is a firefly? A firefly is not a fly. A firefly is a beetle. It is a special beetle. A firefly can light up at night. I want you to pause the video, go ahead and read the rest of the book by yourself, and then unpause it, and we'll continue together. Okay, you've read through it once yourself. Now we're going to read through it together. You can follow along with me just with your eyes, or you can read out loud and try to keep up with me. It's up to you, whichever one you want. Ready? Fireflies, here I'll point to this side of the line that I'm on. Fireflies have another name. Fireflies are also lightning bugs. Fireflies glow and light up at night. Fireflies talk to each other when they glow and light up. You'll notice that I'm stopping at those periods. That helps break up the sentences. It makes more sense that when we read it that way. A firefly is black. It has 2 red spots on its head. It also has a yellow stripe on its head. A firefly has a yellow stripe on its wings. When it is day, a firefly sits upon plants and trees. Look at how a firefly grows. First, a mother firefly lays her eggs under the ground. It is spring. Then the larva grows in the egg. Sometimes we can see firefly eggs glow and light up. In 3 weeks, the larva comes out of the egg. The larva is hungry. What does the larva eat? The larva eats worms and snails. Do you know what a glowworm is? A glowworm is a firefly larva. A firefly larva looks like a worm. A firefly larva can glow too. Look at the glowworm light up. I want you to know that they are not actually worms. They look like worms. Okay? They're beetles, as we learned on the first page. The larva gets cold in the fall and winter. The larva goes under the ground. The larva is warm. Then it is spring. The larva makes a house. The larva grows. Now the larva is a pupa. That's that next stage we were talking about. In 10 days, the pupa is an adult firefly. The firefly is ready to fly. The firefly is ready to eat. Some fireflies eat nectar from a flower. Some fireflies eat other insects. Fireflies fly to many places all summer. You can see fireflies by a pond. You can see fireflies by a stream. Look, do you see anything in the trees? Do you see little lights? Do you see fireflies? I want you to go back and read this book one more time by yourself. This time try to read it a little bit more quickly, a little bit more smoothly, and try to make it sound like real talking. Go ahead and pause the video and do that. Read this book one more time, then unpause and we'll finish up. Okay, you've read it for a third time. Now what I want you to do is get a piece of paper, or you could use the plastic covering that I sent home with a blank piece of paper in there as a whiteboard. And I want you to draw this diagram on there. This is what we call the life cycle. And the first stage that we learned about was the egg. Then the next stage was the larva. As it continued to grow, it became a pupa. Then finally an adult. And then the adult lays more eggs, and the cycle starts over again, which is why it's called a cycle. So for example, in the butterfly's life, they started in an egg. We didn't see that when we got them in our classroom, the eggs had already hatched, okay, but that's how they started, as eggs. Then they were caterpillars, but that's not what the firefly larva is called. It was called something else, and you'll find it in the book. Okay, then the caterpillars went into their chrysalis, which was the pupa stage. Then they came out of the chrysalis as butterflies. Okay, but on your diagram, on each one, I want you to draw and label them. Label the stages of the firefly life cycle. So we started with an egg here on page 5. On page 6, you'll see about the 6 and 7, you'll see the larva stage. Page 8, you'll read about the pupa stage. You can draw that. And then on page 9, you'll read about the adult stage. So for each stage, draw a picture of it and label it. Okay. Once you've done that, you will have a full life cycle of fireflies. Nice job, Blue Group. Remember, as you're reading other things, other books, magazine articles, reading online, you can use our strategies when you get stuck on words, but the most important thing is always to be asking yourself, does it make sense? We need to be able to understand what we're reading, and that's how we do it, by always asking ourselves that question so we notice when we make mistakes. Okay, keep using that strategy and keep reading. Great job, and we'll see you soon.